Book 1, Law of Salimi Chapter 22, titled The Heavenly Monsters and the Young Beasts. All of these scholars with special aura were simply normal human beings to everyone. However, to me, who seemed to be able to sense their hidden temperament, I could describe them as heavenly monsters. The term heavenly does not have any bearing or relation to the actual concept of heaven in accordance to the teachings of Islam, nor does it relate to the concept of being godly as depicted in numerous anime, which was otherwise known as kami-sama. The only definition that I intend for using the term heavenly is to describe of the amazing aura that I can sense in them. Obviously, the term monster does not in any way describe their physical appearances, but rather representing a humongous mental prowess which was kept ever hidden from normal perceiving eyes of the masses public. When I say that I can sense their awesome aura, while most others cannot, it does not suggest that I am saying that I am better than anyone else, but in all honesty, I would say at that particular time, at 18 years old, I was most probably more in tune with my perception sense. As in the anime Law of Yueki, Kosuke Yueki has gained his changing trash to 3 ability from his teacher. A part of that, he was also born with his natural talent as a heavenly being, such as power of Kuragane, Mashu, and so forth. In my life, I seem to have picked up the ability of changing intense emotion into selective memory, which is a lame ability. Moreover, I also have another ability which might be naturally developed from having to survive and endure many years of being bullied during primary school and secondary school. I am able to observe, analyze, theorize, which encompasses virtually everything that I can see. It helps me to develop tactics and strategies to solve problems. This ability would be a branch of my passion for learning, my passion for knowledge and learning, which include discovering new things in my life. The best example that I can provide at this moment of my story is my ability to excel in my studies and developing new tactics for every semester at UiTM campus Manggata. The ability to observe these scholars made me realize that there was something special about them. To other students, they were just normal lecturers. To me, they were heavenly monsters. One of the scholars include the mathematician genius who can perfectly memorize anything that he read. According to him, when he was stuck in an idea while writing his PhD thesis, he would go to any library and spend time reading every book that he could. When he was done, you could ask him about anything contained in any book and he could tell you exactly the words, the page, and which author wrote it. In a layman's term, he was like a human photostating machine. In a more technical term, he probably possessed photographic memory. Obviously, I feel that there was more to his ability because with perfect memory, you are probably able to achieve many other magnificent cognitive talents, which he never disclosed it to me or anyone that I knew about. Nonetheless, a scholar like him deserved to be called a heavenly monster. The best part of these scholars were the fact that they were very humble and do not seek for adoration from others. Another great scholar, who was my favorite lecturer, also had foundation in mathematics. He was more focused on using his mathematics to explore the philosophical study of numerous field of knowledge. His postgraduate study focuses on comparative religion, where he memorized the Quran, numerous famous books on Hadith and Sunnah, as well as several famous Bibles. Talking to him always brings me excitement and enabled me to learn a massive amount of knowledge about life, especially implementing Islam as a way of life. I remembered him saying that a true Muslim works hard and excels at everything possible throughout his or her lifetime. The only time for rest was when we returned to earth or died. His words kept me focused in my study at UiTM campus Manggatal and reverberated throughout my life's journey on walking the path of a scholar until the very moment that I die. Many of these great scholars were my idol and role model for living with Islam as a way of life. Their knowledge about Islam was amazing, in addition to their mastery of the knowledge within the specialized field of study such as mathematics, language, computers, and information technology. When I visited them at their room, I do not always discuss about my studies, considering that most of these great scholars do not teach me or even teach within my program, which was Diploma in Business Studies. Hence, my activities of visiting their rooms were considered to be suspicious, and to certain individuals, I was suspected to conduct dishonest actions such as cheating on my studies, which explained how I managed to dethrone Surazli, who was the best student in my program. Basically, many people were concerned that I was not studying honestly to attain the 3.93 CGPA in my first semester at UiTM campus Manggatal. The reason that I claimed someone was beginning to be suspicious of my activities might be due to the fact that a certain negative rumors began to be circulated around the campus. In fact, according to my roommate, in the Block B of male dormitory, there has been several unknown students being sent to our room to spy on my activities, of which I suspect that their report to their supervisor could be extremely suspicious, because I was never seen studying, or in most cases were not available in my room. Most of my free time was spent discussing about knowledge and philosophies in life with those great scholars or whom I called the heavenly monsters. I was very excited to learn and share knowledge from these great scholars, because I knew that deep in my heart, I might not have the chance to meet with people like them ever again after graduating from UiTM campus Manggatal. Thus, every free time that I had would be visiting their room. For the information of the reader, there were around 10 to 20 of the lecturers whom I visited regularly, regardless of whether they taught my subject or not. The fact that I visited lecturers who are not related to my program should be a good indication that I was not cheating in my studies. Notwithstanding, if you consider the fact that I talked to them about various things in life and learned a great wealth of wisdom and knowledge that they had gathered throughout their life, one could argue that I might be considered as cheating. Technically speaking, I was not cheating to excel in my studies at UiTM campus Manggatal, but instead, I gained a massive amount of knowledge and wisdom from these great scholars. This can be considered as unfair, since I was just about 18 years old, attaining more than average of 40 years old life wisdom from each of the scholars. If you multiply the average of 40 years of knowledge and wisdom with approximately 20 different lecturers, what I did was absolutely unfair for an 18 years old student to obtain 800 years worth of wisdom and knowledge. I should be ashamed with myself for doing such unthinkable thing. How dare for me to try to improve myself. How dare for me to not following the standard academic schedule that had been certified by the government of Malaysia for UiTM campus Mengatal. How shameless of me for learning more than I'm supposed to. How unacceptable of me for thinking outside the box and learn from these great scholars. These are sarcasms if you do not sense it. Frankly speaking, I am not ashamed. I am grateful for Allah the All-Knowing for putting me at UiTM campus Mengatal with the opportunity of meeting and learning from these heavenly monsters. In fact, from my understanding, what I did which was learning as much knowledge as I possibly can, was exactly what Islam encourages to all Muslims and all mankind. I did not cheat in my studies. What I did was to improve my classroom. What I did to improve my classroom studies with outside source, which was discussing knowledge and sharing wisdoms from the heavenly monsters. The reason that I was looking suspicious and was never spending time studying at my room can be attributed to one significant secret tactic developed from my second semester studying at UiTM campus Mengatal, which I will explore in details on the next chapter. This chapter should be focused on the heavenly monsters and their high-level skills or hidden talent which was concealed from the sight of ordinary students. I remembered one scholar who taught accounting for accountancy program at UiTM campus Mengatal. Apart of being an expert in his field of study, which is accounting, he was very knowledgeable with the teachings of Islam. He practiced Islam as a way of life with consistency and patience throughout all aspects in his life. In doing so, he developed a specific unique aura, which I don't think that he realized that he possessed it, that I had never sensed from anyone else before in my life. This special ability oozes with the feeling of comfort and warmth. When I was near him, just by looking at his face, you would be able to forget every problem that you ever had and just become calm. Looking at his face makes your heart to feel peace and serenity. Hence, every time I was feeling dreadful or worried about anything at UiTM campus Mengatal, I would visit his room, if simply to say hi, which refers to giving salam or assalamu alaikum, or to ask whether he was available to talk. Just by seeing his face would alleviate all of the worries and negative thoughts from my mind. This ability was uniquely possessed by this particular scholar. Until this very moment, at my 33 years old life, I had never seen, sensed, or detected this unique ability from any other scholars that I had met all over the world. You, the reader, might be wondering as to how be it possible that UiTM campus Mengatal, which was one of the smallest UiTM branch location, managed to gather all of these heavenly monsters in the same location. Let me try to illuminate one of my theories to explain the question. In the political scene of Malaysia, around the year 1997, there was a strong influence for a specific political party, which I would not mention here, that challenged the government during the national voting or pilihan raya, the election, determining the political power in Malaysia. Considering the huge threat began building up by the opposition party, the government decided that a certain individual in Peninsular Malaysia would be involved in the opposing political party. As a result, these individuals were considered as a threat or able to exert huge influence, specifically in the UiTM branches that were spread all over in the states or in Peninsular Malaysia. Eventually, they were transferred to another location which was considered to be outcasted or thrown away from their original states, possibly to reduce the political influence. Unfortunately for these affected scholars, who were extremely talented and very knowledgeable with the knowledge of Islam, they were thrown as far away as possible from Peninsular Malaysia. This location was UiTM campus Mengkatal. Nonetheless, my analysis highlighted the fact that the decision of throwing talented lecturers to a single location was a fatal flaw made by the relevant party, because that point onward, all of the talented lecturers were gathered in the same place, which was UiTM campus Mengkatal. As a result, many students, including me, was extremely lucky to be able to learn knowledge and wisdom from the best lecturers in Malaysia. This was the reason behind the gathering of best lecturers at UiTM campus Mengkatal. If you think that my theory to explain how the heavenly monsters were gathered into the same location at UiTM campus Mengkatal was flawed, the only other reason was simply that everything was already been written by Allah the Almighty. Everything that happened was meant to happen. I was meant to meet and learn from these heavenly monsters. In other words, it was simply destiny that allowed me to meet the heavenly monsters. Knowing this fact made me realize that I was within the blessings and guidance of Allah the Merciful. It meant that I was intended to walk the path of a scholar. It was my destiny to pursue the path of learning and knowledge, which would lead to sharing and teaching the vast knowledge with others in the future. Heavenly monsters were gathered at UiTM campus Mengkatal to guide and lead me along the path of a scholar that I was walking. Whilst no one at the same age of mine at UiTM campus Mengkatal would approve, I knew that these heavenly monsters realized that I was doing the right thing, walking the path of a scholar. In fact, I believe that I was not the only person who had the ability to sense a hidden talent in another person. I think that every single heavenly monster that spoke to me can sense that I was no ordinary student who do not wish to waste time talking to them. I felt that they knew that I was walking the path of pursuing knowledge and learning about Islam. I felt that they knew that I needed their guidance. In fact, very rarely that I was denied access to their room, even if they were extremely busy with other things and their jobs teaching at UiTM campus Mengkatal. It could be possible that they can sense my hidden ability and I need to be guided to the right path in pursuing knowledge in my life. I never had been denied an opportunity to discuss knowledge with any of them, and I am extremely grateful because of that. I realized that Allah the Almighty had made it easier for my life with the guidance from the heavenly masters. Finally, one of the best known scholars at UiTM campus Mangatal was one who teaches the Arabic language. He was very knowledgeable in the teachings of Islam as well as several other fields of knowledge. His talent was rather scary because he seemed to be able to read other people's thought. I know that I know now that psychic ability has never been scientifically proven by anyone. However, this scholar never claimed that he was psychic or even admit to have the ability to read other people's thought. Nonetheless, the closest scientific explanation would be the talent of performing cold reading. Even so, I know that it requires very sharp mind and analytical observation power for a person to be effective in performing cold reading. It was very impressive considering that this scholar might possess the ability of cold reading. It indicates that he had a very sharp mind and analytical observation skills, which I admit that he possessed those attributes. He would be able to tell the student's background and history, such as the number of siblings in family, your current relationship status, and so on, by simply several seconds of staring into the eyes of his students or victims. Unlike normal cold reading, he never asked any questions. Having realized his scary talent, I never looked directly at his eyes in effort to avoid being read by him in front of other students in a classroom. I respected him as he was my own father at UiDM campus Manggatan. I still remembered at one point in a discussion with him where I asked him if it was possible for me to one day become like him. I was referring to the fact that I wished to become a very knowledgeable person as he was. He simply smiled in his weird and sometimes scary way and replied with the answer, "Impossible. For you, it was already dust." This particular answer remained in my head until this very moment of writing the story of my life. At the moment that I heard his answer, I knew he said that it was impossible for me to be like him. But I never understood what he meant when he said it was already dust. I never figured out the answer until many years have already passed in my life. I was lucky to have selective retention memory. Notwithstanding, if you, the reader, think seriously about it, maybe it wasn't lucky to acquire the ability, but I was meant to have it. It was already written for me in my life, in accordance to fate, or qada and qadar, that has already been determined for my life. In other words, hearing that answer with my selective memory ability was simply my destiny. I was meant to walk the path of a scholar with passion for learning and knowledge. Everything was falling into its place as it was meant to be. Okay, with that, we end the chapter 22 and hope to thank you very much for listening and hope to hear you again in the next chapter. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.